Hi, I'm Ebony Bardsley and this is my FMP reflection video week 9. So this week was production week, which was a very intense process, but it came along really nicely in the end, and it was so rewarding to be able to see just how far our piece has come since the beginning and how it's developed in such a nice and different way than you might have expected or anticipated from the beginning. And just how close everyone's gotten, and just it's been so much fun to work on this show with everyone, and as it's a show where you get so much freedom to work with it, so there wasn't really any clear vision from the beginning, but coming from those initial ideas and interpretations of it to what it is now is just so satisfying to see. So we started the week by having just normal rehearsals, but it was separated into different call times for our different SLT groups. So I was part of the SLT number 4, but we only did a small amount of work on that, and we didn't really, a lot of the times ran over, which is obviously very understandable as different SLT groups had a different amount to work on and were in different stages. So that was all completely fine, and then we all joined together and just did rehearsals as normal, finalising the details that we wanted to go over and just kind of running the scenes with Harry and him giving us just final little directions for it. Then on Tuesday was our tech rehearsal, which was quite an intense day as we started at 9 in the morning and ended at about 10 past 9 at night. This was a really good opportunity though for us to be able to finally map out where we needed everything to be, such as our props and costumes, as we did do it in costume, and also just knowing where we needed to be at each moment, which was quite stressful at times as there's so much multi-rolling in our piece. So a lot of the times you had to be running to and from each side of the wings, but this was really good for us to just finally be able to get that idea of what it would be like when we actually do the show. We did have to adapt and change some of the scenes where it just wasn't going to work realistically, as it's such like a small space in the wings as it is, and then that on top of trying to get different props and costumes, it was just too much. So in the scene in Act 1 where we are meant to come on as people partying, we were all meant to run across the stage quickly and get off with people coming from both different sides, and this just wasn't going to work as it was just too small of a moment, and it would have to be too quick where it wouldn't work with us getting all off safely back into the wings. So we'd changed it to just coming on briefly onto the stage and then running back off, which I think works a lot better as it gives you that moment of chaos and abruptness that just works for the moment. I think the tech rehearsal was quite stressful and tiring for everyone, as it's a lot of stopping and starting, and a lot of the times you're not necessarily being used, but you need to pay attention as it's really important to know what everyone's doing. And we're also heavily involved with the show, that it's just really important to make sure, even though you might be tired and want to be chatting to your friends, make sure that you are still focused, as it's really important for the tech team to be able to follow the lines and their cues that they need to be able to do the right lighting cues or sound effects. We also had 2 dress rehearsals. The first one, which was performed to our peers who in our year and second year, and I really enjoyed this dress rehearsal, and it was really nice to finally have an audience to react to it, and they were a really good audience and laughed at a lot of the jokes and just were really receptive and engaging. And then our second dress rehearsal, I think, went really well as well, and that was when pictures were being taken, and I think we all put so much energy into both performances, and really just it gave us that boost to know that we can do the show in a successful way with our props and costumes and everything. Then our first performance, I think it went so well. We all really had that adrenaline that kicked us off for our first performance. And I think it was so nice to finally have that outside perspective that didn't necessarily know anything about the show. And I think we all really just had high energy and wanted to do so well because it was the first time that an outside audience, apart from the other people in our course, were watching it. And I think that from my perspective, I think everything went well. There wasn't any problems with props or costumes or anything, but it was a good opportunity to see anything that could be fixed for the second show, knowing where stuff was, and in that stressful environment, being able to work under pressure and knowing that these people have paid to come and see you. Then with the second performance, we obviously didn't have that adrenaline of it being opening night and the first time that we're getting to perform to a public audience. However, I think that this audience was so much more interactive and responsive to what we were doing. They were laughing so much louder and you could just hear like audible reactions. And I think that the first audience wasn't necessarily a bad audience, but you're obviously going to get audiences and people that take things differently and react to things differently. And it's not that the first audience didn't necessarily find things funny or weren't engaged, but you get different people in the audience, so obviously they're going to have different reactions. So I think having this for our second and closing night was just really nice, as it gave us a nice ending to it and just made it all feel really worth it, having put in all that hard work for all these weeks and just seeing how far it has all come. Overall, I really enjoyed working on this show for my first year FMP, and it was just such a nice and friendly cast to work with, and I really enjoyed working with Harry. I think that he was really good at working collaboratively with us and using our ideas, and also just being really understanding with us and really helpful during the whole process. So I think I will really miss working on this show.